Hey, this is Jeff and Mandy Rose of dollarsandroses.com, and we're excited to actually do our first interview. We've got Bob on the other line, if you want to call it that. Bob is in the personal finance space with myself with christianpf.com. He also has a new blog, or newer blog, bloggingyourpassion.com. And I was just excited to get Bob on here because he is a professional blogger. I believe he's wearing shorts right now, which I think is the definition, epitome of a pure blogger. So we really just want to get him on here and kind of share his story from the corporate world, you know, giving up the day job into the blogging world, and just learn more about his background. And then my wife has some really good questions too to interject, don't you, babe?
Sure, I do.
So many people may, actually Bob had to remind this to me that we actually have something in common where we both worked for A.G. Edwards & Sons, based out of St. Louis. And I guess let's just start it off there, Bob. You were working for A.G. Edwards, good corporate job. Were you already blogging at that point?
Well, not when I started at A.G. Edwards. I started there, I don't know, maybe 2002-ish or something like that. And worked there for ultimately about 5 years. And about a year or so before I got laid off, when we got bought out by Wachovia, as you know, in that process I got laid off. And so at that point I had been blogging for probably about a year, and that's when that whole thing went down. So. And
was that Christian PF that you were blogging at that point, or?
Yeah, that was pretty much the only blog I had, you know, and I'll just give you a little bit more of the story because this is probably where we're headed. But, you know, at that point when I got laid off, I wasn't making a whole lot from the blog at that time, you know, but it was one of those things that I was really interested in doing it, and I really didn't like my job, and I was learning that I didn't like corporate America. As much as I had longed to be part of corporate America, I kind of realized it really wasn't what I wanted anymore. So I just kind of, I prayed about it, and I talked to my wife about it, and after a while we just decided, you know, let's go for this and let's see if we can make this work. And I got a nice severance package, and so with that, you know, I just kind of took the leap, and I want to say it was probably about 9 months later, I ended up making more with my blog than I had been at my old job. So it all worked out pretty well.
Wow.
Yeah, that's really cool. Did you have any type of like backup plan? Did you think like, okay, I'm just going to go for it? Or were you know, did you have a plan going forward? Like, okay, if this doesn't work out, here's something that I can do. Because I mean, that's scary for someone to just, you know, leave their full-time job and just not making money for their blog and just go for it. I mean, that's a big leap.
Yeah, I'm a planner at heart, so I absolutely did have a plan, you know, as best as I could. I mean, I also like taking very well calculated risks, and I figured this was one of them. So essentially, you know, we had saved up some good money because I had a good lead time notice for when I was going to be laid off. So we had time to kind of save up and to get more debt paid off. And so we did that. We saved up, and we had a nice savings. And then on top of that, like I said, I got a severance package. And so those two combined, you know, bought us some time. And then I just figured, you know, if it didn't work out, you know, there were other brokerage firms in town I could go work for, and, you know, if I had to go back to that. But, you know, thankfully I didn't. So.
No, I mean, you just said something, I think, for somebody that's just starting blogging, or maybe anybody that's been blogging for several years. You said within 9 months of getting laid off that you're able to replace your income and actually exceed what you're making at your day job? Did I hear that right?
Yeah, you did hear it right. And you know, now let me say, before that, like I said, I was blogging for a year. So essentially it was near the 2-year mark that I crossed what I was making at my old job. You know, and honestly, I've been in this for a while, and those results aren't typical. I've seen a whole lot of bloggers. I've talked to a whole lot of bloggers. That isn't common. And I feel blessed that I just happened to be one of those people that did happen to. But that said, you know, I talk to people all the time, and I think it's absolutely realistic for a blogger who gets in and starts blogging about something that they're excited about and they really enjoy. I think it's absolutely realistic that they can make some money from that site. You know, and if they work hard at it and are diligent about it and patient, you know, I think making a few $100s a month after a year is pretty reasonable.
Yeah. What would you say, obviously you had more time to devote to your blog, But what were some of the contributing factors for you to actually to make money? I think a lot of people that are starting off blogging, you know, they say, oh, they make money off ads or Google ads, or, you know, what was it kind of the tipping point for you that was able to actually make some income?
You know, I don't really know exactly. Honestly, I wish I had a better answer for you. But once I went full time, it just seemed like all of a sudden a lot of things kicked into gear. So it was kind of like the first year was laying this foundation, you know, of building relationships, of getting content out there, of starting to learn about search engines and how they work. You know, of getting links from other sites, all these different things. And it seemed like the whole first year was just kind of this foundation building that didn't yield a whole lot of results that year as far as traffic and earnings. But off of that into the next year was when it seemed like things really started to kick into gear for me. So honestly, I think more of it is a result of the kind of hard work and the plowing that was done in that first year. You know, I think it was just kind of time for that to kind of rise up and start moving forward, you know, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people don't have the patience, like you said. You know, I think that's one thing that people do is they start a blog and they automatically think, oh, I'm not making any money, and so they quit. But like you said, I think it takes that first full year at least to set that foundation. What was something that you did that really helped you increase your traffic? Because, you know, I know a lot of mommy bloggers out there, and just growing readership, it seems like it's hard to do, you know? So what is something that you can tell other people on how they would go about growing their traffic?
I mean, there's a lot of different philosophies about this and a lot of different ways to get traffic, as you guys are both well aware. You know, and so for me, one of the things that I noticed was working well, one of the, in general, stepping back, one of the things I think is really important as bloggers is that we see what's working and then we put more energy into what's working. You know, rather than trying to focus our energy on 35 different things, you know, and you have to do a little bit of that to kind of figure out what's working. But once you identify something as working, to me, it seems like a real good idea to dump a lot more energy and time into that so that can move up into a much higher level. And that was kind of one of the things that I did. And so one of the main sources of traffic that I was getting was from search engines. And so I continued to learn about SEO and more about search engines and how I could do certain things to kind of improve that traffic that I was getting, you know. And SEO still gets a bad rap from time to time because a lot of spammers will say that they're doing what they're doing in the name of SEO, but in reality, all the major search engines say that they have no problem with SEO and they have no problem with people trying to optimize their site for the search engines. It's just when you do it in manipulative and kind of spammy ways that it's not good, in which I, of course, don't participate in that and don't advocate that. But getting a little bit more specific, one of the most important things for bloggers to do is keyword research. And all we're talking about there is just figuring out and learning what other people are searching for in the search engines, you know. And once you know what people are searching for in Google, and you can write your article, maybe just even mentioning some of those phrases in your article, that right there is, you know, is going to be a huge stepping stone. And that was one of the big things for me, that all of a sudden I realized that if I write an article and just work in some of these phrases that people are possibly searching for, that I'll get a lot more traffic from the search engines. And that was kind of one of the big things that I did.
Do you have any like seasonal traffic where whether it be certain times of the year that you get more traffic than others, and have you tried to capitalize on some of those seasonal events or such?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have. I got a few different articles that are pretty seasonal in nature. And so, for example, there's one tax-related article that I have that obviously gets traffic 4 months out of the year and then doesn't the rest. You know, and so I do try to capitalize on that to some extent by maybe promoting it on the site a little bit more during tax time, and maybe trying to get some links to it a little bit before tax time and things like that. But in general, I would say most of my traffic isn't seasonal like that. It's more consistent, which is probably what I prefer, just because, you know, like anybody else, I love going up, but don't really like doing this. So
Right.
You know, you mentioned a lot about search engine. You know, I think in the last well, probably a couple of years now, they've been really talking about, social media, with the Facebook and the Twitter. I think on your fan page for Christian PF, you have over 7,000 fans, somewhere in that proximity. How much importance do you think that has now with also helping with traffic numbers and getting your blog increased in like search engines and such?
It's becoming a much bigger deal. Google is using, they have a lot of different things that they're using to try to figure out where to rank articles in the search engines. And as you know, social media is becoming more and more, it's becoming a bigger part of that equation. And so that is an important part for me, and I am trying to work those things in a little bit more. And and that said, I mean, I am getting a decent amount of traffic from Facebook now, because like you said, we're in the 7,000 range of fans, and that really helps. So there's traffic to be gained from using those social media outlets, as well as some of those social signals are actually helping on the search engine traffic front as well.
So 9 months in, you're making more income than you did in your day job, and now I think you have at least 5, 6, maybe more writers that contribute to your site on a regular basis. Can you tell me at the point in time you thought, okay, I'm going to actually invest some money, back into my site, hire writers? For a lot of people, that's like they're just trying to make a couple $100 on their site to actually take that money and pay somebody for content. That's probably like a big risk for a lot of people. What was kind of your thought process and going to that direction?
I mean, it was risky for a lot of different reasons. I was making enough money that it wasn't a big deal to pay the writers. That wasn't the biggest risk as far as I was concerned, because I could easily go back into next month and just let them know, sorry, I didn't make enough. I can't, have you guys on anymore. But for me, the bigger risk was kind of the brand, and in a lot of bloggers, they are the brand in their blog, and they're all kind of tied together. And so for me, I intentionally kind of broke off from the brand a little bit and wanted it to be able to stand on its own 2 feet. And so kind of from that branding perspective, it was a little bit risky. But what it provided me, all the additional free time to continue working on the site without having to regularly come up with that content, it was worth it. It was worth the risk, and it's paid off really well, because I've been able to spend a whole lot more time managing and trying to grow the website, rather than constantly having to write just to keep it afloat.
Right.
Yeah.
I think some people may not know, but you and your wife took a trip out of town, out of state, for a month or so down to Florida, I believe, where you actually got away from your site altogether. I mean, to me, that's freaking amazing, that you can do that. So, wish I could do that.
Me too. Yeah. Let's go.
You should.
I know there's a lot of different ways that you can make money online, but can you tell us, like, what have you found to be the most successful revenue stream for Christian PF? Like, is it AdSense? Is it direct advertising? Is it affiliates? Like, what is the best revenue for you?
AdSense has pretty much always been the biggest earner. But I'll add a caveat to that. It does depend on what niche you're in. Certain niches just will not do as well with AdSense, and other ones do pretty well. And in our niche, the personal finance niche, pays pretty well for AdSense. But I always recommend that people try it out, and because one of the nice things about it, and not everybody feels this way, but I actually feel like the ads are helpful. And, because there have been many times where I'm searching for something or a product or something and end up finding an article, and then there will be an ad right there that takes me to exactly what I want to buy. And Google is just really, really good at finding those ads that are relevant to that content. So I would argue that the ads are actually helpful to the user, particularly users who come from the search engines. But the other thing with AdSense is it's really, really important to get the ads in the right places on your site. And so I see a lot of bloggers, they'll just throw AdSense up anywhere that they can put it. And a lot of times it's like in the bottom right-hand corner, which is like the worst place to put your ad. And that's one of those things that I spent a lot of time on, learning where the best places to put your ad. And I just did a whole lot of testing with that. I tested different colors and different ad sizes and all these things. And when you do that and start you really start to figure out what's working best, and you start earning a lot more with AdSense. That really took me up a couple notches just by trying some of those things out.
That's great. And that's something even on my own site that I need to test more on. I've tested colors of the links, colors of the text, all the different variations, placement. But I think, like you're right, people don't realize that you got to test that out and see where the eyes are and what's going to be most clickable.
Yeah.
Okay, so what would you tell someone who had a passion to blog full time and they just didn't know how to get their blog to the next level? What's just like one thing that they could implement like today that would help them?
Honestly, I mean, what we were just talking about with the AdSense thing, I think that's a really, really big one. I believe, if I remember correctly, my AdSense earnings increased $1,500 in 3 months, $1,500 a month in a 3-month period by making a lot of these AdSense type changes and by doing some testing with AdSense. So, I mean, that one is really, really important, and people underestimate it and they'll just kind of blow it off. But you can move an ad from one spot on your site to another spot on your site, and you'll make 3 times as much money. And people don't realize that, but that really is, it's really important to try and to test with those things. So I would say that is a really, really big one. And then I'll give you one other one, like we were talking about earlier, starting to do keyword research. If you're a blogger and you haven't done that and you haven't started to figure out what people are searching for and use some of the tools to do that, I highly recommend doing that. It will make a big, big difference, particularly if no one else in your niche is doing it. It gives you even more of an opportunity. So there's a lot of different things. Google AdWords, they have their own like kind of a tool where you can get some keyword research data. There's a website called keywordresearcher.org, and that's a really cool one. They have a tool. It's a paid tool, but that'll give you a lot of different ideas. And I think they have a free version on the site as well that you can use. But yeah, getting started with keyword research is really, really important.
Before we close here, we talked a lot about Christian PF, how that's your main baby. You've recently, I think it's a joint partnership with bloggingyourpassion.com. Can you tell us a little bit about, what brought that on, what that's all about, and what more people might want to know about it?
Sure. Yeah, I wrote an article basically after I reached the 2-year mark and I started making more with my blog than my job. I decided I'm going to write an article about this and tell people how I did it. So I wrote that article on Christian PF, and it's been really popular.
It's a great article.
What was that?
Article.
It's a great article.
Oh, thanks. So I wrote that article, and it became really popular, and I was getting emails all the time. I was getting more emails about that article than any other thing on my site, probably combined. And I started realizing, okay, there's a lot of interest here. I probably need to start a website. And I sat on that for a couple years because I couldn't figure out how. And long story short, I ran into a guy, Jonathan Milligan, and we started kind of talking and chatting, and we discovered that we both had the same passion to kind of help people learn about this. And so we decided to launch Blogging Your Passion. And essentially what we do there is it is a blog, but we offer training courses as well. So we have 2 video training courses. One of them is just all the basics to help somebody get their blog set up. And then the other one, our 201 course, kind of goes into more detail about all the other things. Once you have your blog set up, how to get more traffic, make more money. We talk about SEO a little bit. We talk about keyword research, all those things. So
awesome.
Yeah, that's cool.
Hey, well, Bob, I just wanted to say thank you for coming on and sharing us with your wisdom on blogging and your journey. I think it's awesome to hear a success story that continues to be a success. For those that want to find out more about you, connect with you, where's the best place that they can find you?
Yeah, christianpf.com or bloggingyourpassion.com. You can find me either one.
Okay, those are 2 great sites to check out. And
yeah, thanks so much.
The Dollars and Roses team, we say thank you again.
All right, it's my pleasure, guys.
All right, God bless. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, take care.